Right, just chilling in the pool. Cat's over there. It started to rain, but I've just done loads of cardio this morning, so yeah, that's been really good. I've just done like loads of laps in the pool basically. Just been using the goggles that I got for the snorkeling, which have worked nice. So yeah, actually, if you guys go back and look at the first Thailand vlogs, I'm sure you can tell I'm so much more tan now. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure to keep putting aloe vera, etc. But it is hammering it down right now. Right then guys, I'm just outside the gym for the day. So this place is called Shark Gym or Shark Muay Thai Gym, something like that. Location, absolutely beautiful. Like I'm right on the mountains here, right on the kind of edge of everything. As I've been driving around just on the edge of the cliff here, it's been absolutely beautiful. What I would say is this place was a little bit hard to find, but I think it was because either my GPS was just not really playing ball, or it might be a case of I think I'm on a highway, so it basically is like next to the actual location itself. So I basically ended up going past it, pulling into some random little street, and then the GPS was kind of going a bit crazy and then recalibrated itself and said it was 13 minutes away. So I just re-put the location in and it was 2 minutes back down the road. So yeah, we're all sorted now. As I said, I'm outside, literally just going to pull in here, park the pets out the front. Not sure how much the day pass is, and obviously this is a Muay Thai gym. We've only got about an hour and 20 minutes until this place closes. Not a problem, to be fair. Today I've been doing so much cardio again as my swimming, so if I know that the gym's going to close like early and I'm not going to be able to realistically get there in time to do my workout and the cardio after, then I've just been doing loads of swimming. So yeah, caught a nice tan today as well. As you would have seen, like it was really sunny, like UV 12 from about 11 a.m. to about 2 or 3 p.m. and then it's just heavy rain. Now it's stopped a little bit, so it's quite nice. But yeah, plan for today, I'm not going to waffle too much longer because as I said, I'm on a bit of a time schedule, but plan is basically just go and smash back, maybe a bit of biceps, but I'm just want to camp out on the machines. Yesterday I fell asleep basically after only having like probably 1500 calories, so maybe even less. So basically I've eaten that today to make up for it, because not for the calorie content but for the protein. So if that happened like a couple months ago when I was in diet, I would have just probably if that was just excess calories, I would have just left it and rolled with it. But because I needed my protein and my calories are so low anyway, I kind of can't afford to miss out on that. So yeah, long story short, had that food before, so it should be nice and pumped up, nice and carved up. And yeah, let's get into it, guys. Right people, welcome back to another video. So we've got a voiceover for this one here. This is at a different gym than you would have ever seen on the channel before. So this is the only time I go to this gym. It is a pretty decent one for kind of a one-off, and I wouldn't recommend specifically going here if you are on the island of KOH LANTA, but at the same time, if you're passing through, then you know there is a few decent bits of equipment here. You can see I'm kind of just walking around. So my plan initially was to do back and biceps, but after having a little look around here, I just didn't feel like the equipment was really suited for that, and it wasn't really getting me too hyped. So I decided instead to utilize the leg equipment that they've got and pretty much just train quads. So that also wasn't a mistake, but as I got into the session, I did find it very hard to actually overload my quads. So as you can see here, there's a lot of volume, there's a lot of sets, and there's a lot of reps. So on this one here, I think I'm going full stack, and each set would be around 30 reps, which is agony, to be honest. It absolutely kills, it burns like crazy. It's not the style of training that I like, and that's one thing I wanted to talk about in this video, guys, is that you don't have to train a certain way if you don't want to. Obviously, certain goals require a specific type of training, but there is usually always more than one way to approach a goal. So if you don't like doing high rep training, you can very often manipulate that and do less reps with more weight. Obviously, this is an example of a session where I'm pretty much just forced to do this high rep and low weight, but using this kind of moving forward, what I would then do is try and choose other exercises which are better suited to my needs on that specific day. So, could be going for some single leg stuff instead. I think at this point in time I was in a bit of a rush, so I didn't want to opt for single leg, and also the range of motion on this machine unfortunately wasn't great. But if you guys are at a gym which has a good leg extension, which doesn't just go heavy enough, then every once in a while try some single leg, and that might feel absolutely fantastic. So then instead of having to do the whole stack for 30 reps, you could then maybe do 3/4 of the stack or the full stack single leg for 10 to 15 reps. So yeah, just going through loads of different angles here, guys. It's not super exciting, but then I do move on to some Smith machine squats. Now, I will say here, this was a very, very heavy set. And what I mean by that is not the actual weight itself, but it just, for me, at this point in time, it felt very heavy. You can see here, I only got a couple of reps, and I actually then decided to do a drop set. Now, the first thing to note is that at this point in time, I was on around 2,000 calories. Some days it would be 2,100, but on the last couple of days of this diet, I did drop it down to 2,000. So very, very low for me, considering when I'm bulking, I'll be upwards of 6,000 calories. But also I forgot my knee sleeve. So you can see here, I had about 130 kg on the bar. I think they're 20 kg plates. They might be 25, but I think they're 20. And then I dropped it down to just basically what looks like here 220s, and still managed to get a few reps in this one. But overall for me, I don't really get the worst knee pain. It's just that I really like to have that stability around my knee joint to just make me feel stable and secure, ready to press. So as you can see here, going for a close stance Smith machine squat, which is going to bias the quads a hell of a lot, and going ass to grass right the way down, getting that full range of motion, crazy stretch in the legs here. And yeah, I mean, I don't wear a belt, I don't need wrist wraps, nothing like that, but for me, really do benefit from wearing some knee sleeves. So I would advise you guys to invest in some of those if you haven't already, because they're very, very useful, and I do find that they help progressively overload the muscle and the exercise. So dropping down again here, as you can see, to basically just 220 kgs. And what I've actually done here is I've put a plate under my heels to give me a bit more elevation. Now, I did actually try and do that initially with the first working set, but it just wasn't very comfortable. You can see these plates here, they're a little bit unusual, and the shoes that I had weren't really appropriate for doing the Smith machine squats with a plate underneath. So yeah, this set here is kind of a much more controlled slow set. You can see here the pace that I'm doing is a little bit different, and that's another way that you guys can switch up your training. So you can adjust the weight, you can adjust the reps, you can also adjust the speed and the tempo. But what actually happened here, as you can see, is I had to pause, and I was just taking a second thinking to myself, is it really worth doing another set on here because of how aggravated my knee felt? So, as I said, I'm not someone that always has crazy knee pain. I can still squat well. I can still do many different exercises. But when I'm trying to go heavy, and when I'm in the very, very last few days of a diet, obviously there's less body fat surrounding the joint there. You've got a little bit more of a risk of injury. So just try and take it careful. So what I did instead was I chose to move on to some abductors and then back onto some leg extension. So this set here, I will end up speeding up because it's just very, very monotonous and the same. But yeah, just showing you that every once in a while things might not go to plan, and sometimes you do have to suck it up and just pretty much deal with it and push through. But most of the time, guys, if you don't like an exercise, or if you don't like the style of set that you've been recommended or that you've seen someone do, then you can more than often not change that. Pick a different exercise, pick a different machine, and if that doesn't work, then maybe move it further on in the session, or move it closer to the start of the session when you're more fresh. So many different ways to switch things around, and I do think consistency is good. So once you find something that works well, I would advise sticking with that for a little bit, just to really make sure that you are actually progressively overloading. But at the same time, variation is good. So what I kind of like to do is have a few exercises which I do keep as staples, and I will try and keep the variables the same, i.e. how often I do them, what order I do them in, and things like that. But then I'll have other exercises which will kind of rotate in and out based on what gym I'm at, or what body fat level I'm at, or if I'm training with a partner or by myself, for example. So, you know, I wouldn't ever do a barbell bench press by myself, but if I'm training with a training partner, I do like to do some close grip barbell bench press. But if I'm with myself, I'll just do Smith machine or something like that. So, you know, using your intuition and using your common sense to kind of prioritize your training and do what's most effective is obviously the name of the game. So just running through a few poses here. Would have been fasted when I trained here, I'm 99% sure. So, you know, no carbs, and obviously my upper body is going to be even more flat, as it should be when you train legs, because the majority of your blood is going to be sucked into your lower body there, into your legs. So you'll often hear the term, or you may have heard the term before, where the blood pools, and that just means like the blood is pooling in your legs, meaning that all of your, you know, veins are recruiting that blood and that oxygen down there, because you're not really using your upper body as much. So if you do a really crazy leg day, I would advise not just sitting down for ages. You might get a little bit lightheaded, so have a drink, have a bit of water, walk around a little bit, and that will help pump the blood up towards your vital organs and your brain, making you feel a bit more oxygenated and not so lightheaded. So yeah, just a tip there for you guys that do find yourself feeling a little bit lightheaded on your leg days. And for me, I always take 1.5 litres of water and 3 electrolyte sachets during my session, and then I'll also take more water additionally as well. That is if I'm training for like 2 to 3 hours in the heat. If you're back in the UK, I know right now there is a heat wave, but if you're somewhere like the UK, or you know, you're in the US and it's not too hot, or anywhere else in the world, then maybe you could adjust that a little bit, because obviously you can see here the amount that I'm actually perspiring during the session is absolutely crazy, and 2 to 3 hours of a leg day is different to just 45 minutes of an arm session. But yeah, making sure to stay hydrated, guys. Hydration is more important than carbohydrates, but obviously carbohydrates do massively help with the pump and the energy. But in a diet, I'm just doing what I can. So yeah, little brief rundown there, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, the only way is up.